Star Wars Jedi Power Battles. It's a game developed by LucasArts and released on the PlayStation 1 and the Dreamcast in the year 2000. And I'll be honest, I love Jedi Power Battles. No, it's not a perfect game, and it was released in that weird era of gaming where nice-looking 3D console games were more of an exception, and Jedi Power Battles isn't very pretty. Nor does it feature fancy, streamlined action controls, such as in the Batman Arkham game. So the graphics can be blurry and blocky at times, and the controls are a bit clunky. But the core gameplay is pretty solid. You travel around different locations from Episode 1 and whack enemies with your lightsaber. And there are a few levels that mix things up with objectives, and a speeder bike level on Naboo that looks and feels a lot like River Raid. But mostly you whack things with lightsabers. And this part works well. It just takes a little getting used to because you can't just run around and tear through enemies. Defense plays a role in the combat, which is what always made the game fun to me. Sometimes enemies will surround you if you're not careful, so positioning and spacing are things you should be mindful of. And blocking attacks plays a big role in the game. Consecutive blows will quickly overload your block meters, so again, not getting surrounded plays its part. And a lot of the enemies attack with ranged weapons, and this is probably the coolest part of the game, as a well-timed block will reflect a blaster shot back at the enemies. To me, that's easily the most satisfying part of the game. It really kind of makes you feel like a Jedi. And there are combos for each character that you unlock as you level them up. And sometimes the combos can be useful, but nothing beats taking out a room full of baddies by knocking their blaster shots back in their faces. Each Jedi has 3 force techniques as well, some of which are pretty cool and at times very practical. But reflecting those blaster shots back at enemies, it really is the coolest part of the game. And I mentioned leveling up characters and unlocking combos. There's that, and unlocking extra game modes and characters. With everything unlocked, there are 6 Jedi, Ki-Adi-Mundi being a Dreamcast exclusive, as well as throwaway characters that aren't very fun to play with, like Padme and Captain Panaka. The extra game modes are pretty boring and feel like afterthoughts, with the exception of Survival Challenge, where you battle through 100 enemies to unlock the Ultimate Saber mode. The main storyline of Jedi Power Battles is 10 stages long, and each stage usually has a small to moderate amount of platforming, and this is one of the rougher parts of the game. It does take some getting used to. Until you get the hang of it, it can be pretty tricky judging depth and distance, which leads to a lot of unfortunate deaths. Another downfall is the general bugginess of the game. It's not uncommon to find yourself hung up and stuck between objects every so often and suddenly die, like you were crushed to death or something, and things like this happen throughout the game. And like you might expect from a game released in this era, the cutscenes and voice acting are pretty shoddy. But that's not what this game is about. It's about feeling like a Jedi. Besides the obligatory awesome Star Wars music, making you feel like a Jedi is the one thing this game does well. Warts and all, I love Jedi Power Battles. So sue me.